Welcome to TradeTheMBI.com. This is Jonas. Report is for the 29th, and hope everyone had a nice Christmas holiday while the Santa rally, broadly, if we look at it from December, just started to make a move. Because if we go back to the beginning of December, right here, get it right there, would be December 1. Um, yeah, you had to get over this threshold, which just didn't happen until right before Christmas. So it's very, very brief Santa rally. But from the 50% mark now, of course, we could see that Magenta crossing back over that turnaround point that took place right here. We were at the beginning of it, but still. What we did get, though, was a lot of information right at the holiday period that the economy uh, performed quite well, and actually better than most had perceived. And so, if that number continues, then I think that you're looking at a pretty strong start to the year, at least from an economic number. And these are all the things that we expected. We just hadn't seen any data. And of course, the shutdown really kind of messed with that a little bit. But it's finally becoming clear that there's that continued problem with the energy sector. From an NQ standpoint, not as effective. You can see it's still making lower highs and not able to quite get over that hump. And when we look at the readings, you had that cyan and green meet with the DOC right here, and they just held across each other. And now you're starting to get the bifurcation split. When you don't get a crossover, you don't have any meaningful strength of one over the other. It becomes problematic, and of course, we've still been a negative shakeout from an Nasdaq standpoint, which didn't bode well in my view as far as taking out highs. I'd be surprised if it's able to do that, given that because just it's not built into it. You'd have to have some kind of freak short covering event to cause it, maybe peace breaking out or something like that. That could do it, but generally no. And from a treasury standpoint, just as anything happened, the Fed is out to lunch. Oil took a reversal back up towards 50%, faded off that just a little bit the other day. But again, you're in this holiday thing. Things aren't going to clarify until after the beginning of the new year. But from a reading standpoint, you definitely like seeing the MBI white lead. The problem you got is the magenta over yellow. It's not sufficient enough uh, crossover to really cause a fade further. And that's really what's needed. Now, potentially, if peace breaks out, that could definitely be a serious move to the downside for price in that aspect, and that would make a huge difference. And of course, that would be. I still don't think you're going to get any change. The euro is still pushing for more down the road, and going to keep pressing towards that. And their plan to spend that money, regardless of whether or not they have to pay it back to the Russians or not. They're still going to. They're committed. Gold having reached its peak, faded off just a little bit for that, but I think that's irrelevant in the broader construct. You're not seeing any change in spending and that, and it's just going to accelerate. We did see some softening though in potential, and it may impact ETH more than Bitcoin on payments and that, as far as banking and that. That could be interesting to see if that further develops and whether or not some of these altcoins or stable coins are allowed to utilize banking, because a lot of them are being debanked by your larger banks, because of course they don't want that competition view standpoint. But that would be interesting, because that is really the mechanism that brings crypto into the mainstream as soon as it's allowed to be used in that kind of a conversion. Until then, it's going to have a limited attraction. For me, it's always been about utilizing it as a parking money temporarily when there's indecision, and you can avoid currency fiat swings. And it's still effective for that in most cases. Just is in a dark period right now. From a 50K standpoint, you can see way back on the 19th, we had the buy set up, and finally, right after Christmas, they're taking that run all the way through for several days. And now we're just into this short, brief days where everything's a little modified and we're just not getting as much action. We filled the positive extremes that took place from right back over here. The ones that we haven't filled, well, actually, that one was good. It's just this one right here that began the first part of the rally that hasn't been filled. That's all the way back to 68. So this is not that far. Well, actually 69, 68, 98. So 69 is 50, 60 points, not that far a range. Definitely possible to happen. From an intraday standpoint, yeah, it was mostly weakness across there, and even in the most recent Asian session was pretty soft overall, and that just continued to spread to the European one, which is where things are currently right now. But most of them are on vacation anyway, so not really reliable. That's the long and the short of it. Of course, indicators for the beginning of the year will be coming out, so be ready for that. As always, have a good one. Trade well.